The text messages glowed on the screen, illuminating Michael Thompson's face in the darkness of his truck. His calloused hands trembled as he scrolled through the exchanges between his daughter and her teacher. "Meet me at our spot," one read. "I miss your touch," said another. Michael's chest tightened with each swipe of his finger. His 18-year-old daughter Rebecca, his little Becky, had apparently been involved with her 32-year-old English teacher, Nathan Pearson, since she was just 15 years old. 3 years of secrets. 3 years of violation. 3 years of a trusted educator crossing unforgivable boundaries with his child. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. In that moment, sitting in his pickup truck outside Westfield High School, something broke inside Michael Thompson. The kind, hard-working construction company owner who'd built half the homes in Oak Ridge, Colorado, who'd coached Little League and donated generously to community causes, made a decision that would alter countless lives forever. The gun in his glove compartment, normally kept for protection on remote job sites, suddenly had a purpose far beyond self-defense. What happened next would shock the quiet mountain community to its core and leave everyone asking, when does a father's protection become vigilante justice? And in the eyes of the law, can a parent's rage ever justify taking another life? Katherine Thompson first noticed the changes in her daughter during the fall semester of Rebecca's sophomore year at Westfield High. The once outgoing, straight-A student had grown increasingly withdrawn. Her wardrobe shifted from colorful outfits to dark, baggy clothing. Her phone became an extension of her hand, and she guarded it fiercely. Teenage phases, Katherine had told herself, preoccupied with her booming real estate business and the aftermath of her bitter divorce from Michael 2 years earlier. The separation had hit Rebecca hard, though she maintained a close relationship with her father, spending every other weekend at his modest 2-story home across town. It was during those weekends that Michael began noticing peculiarities as, Rebecca would disappear for hours, claiming to be studying at the library or at her friend Zoe's house. Yet when Michael casually mentioned calling Zoe's parents one evening, panic flashed across Rebecca's face. "Don't bother them, Dad," she had insisted. "They're having family issues right now." The lie unraveled when Michael ran into Zoe's mother at the grocery store the following day. She mentioned how Zoe had been disappointed that Rebecca kept canceling their plans lately. Michael nodded politely, but alarm bells were ringing. At Westfield High School, Rebecca had developed a reputation as the teacher's pet in Mr. Pearson's advanced English literature class. Nathan Pearson had arrived at the school 3 years earlier, fresh from graduate school with a master's in English literature and ambitious dreams of inspiring young minds. With his casual style, literary knowledge, and ability to make classic texts feel relevant, he quickly became one of the most popular teachers on campus. "He just gets us, you know," students would say. "He talks to us like we're adults." Principal Walter Davis had nothing but praise for the young educator during staff reviews. Pearson headed the drama club, coached the debate team, and frequently stayed late to help struggling students. His dedication seemed beyond reproach. Rebecca had always loved literature, but her passion blossomed under Mr. Pearson's guidance. He recommended books not on the curriculum, praised her analytical essays, and encouraged her to enter writing competitions. Katherine was thrilled when her daughter won a prestigious statewide contest with an essay on feminist themes in Victorian literature, an essay Mr. Pearson had helped her refine over many after-school sessions. "Mr. Pearson says I could get into any English program in the country," Rebecca had announced proudly at dinner one night. "He's helping me with application essays already." The extra attention seemed innocent, even commendable. A dedicated teacher recognizing potential in a gifted student. That's what everyone believed. Everyone except Zoe Mitchell. "He looks at her weird," Zoe confided to another friend during lunch period. "And Becky's always making excuses to go to his classroom." The rumors started small, whispers in bathroom stalls, glances in the hallway when Rebecca and Mr. Pearson passed each other. But in a high school of 800 students, whispers rarely stay contained. The first anonymous note appeared in Katherine's mailbox 6 months into Rebecca's sophomore year. "Your daughter is sleeping with her teacher." Katherine dismissed it as a cruel prank, the work of jealous classmates targeting her academically successful daughter. She tore it up without mentioning it to Rebecca or Michael. More notes followed. Katherine began to watch more carefully, noting how often Rebecca mentioned Mr. Pearson in conversation, how her phone would buzz during dinner and she'd smile at the screen before excusing herself. One evening, Katherine picked up Rebecca's laptop to move it from the kitchen table and accidentally knocked it open. The screen illuminated, revealing an email draft addressed to N with the words, "I can't stop thinking about last night," clearly, visible before Rebecca snatched it away. "That's private, Mom!" she had shouted, her face flushed with anger and something else. Fear. "Who's N?" Katherine had asked, her stomach churning with dread. "Nobody. A friend. God, can I have some privacy?" Katherine made an appointment with Principal Davis the next day, carefully phrasing her concerns as questions about Rebecca's sudden interest in pursuing English as a college major and the amount of time she was spending with Mr. Pearson. The principal assured her that Nathan Pearson was an exemplary educator who took a special interest in all his promising students. "If anything," Davis had said with a reassuring smile, "we wish we had more teachers as dedicated as Nathan." For Rebecca's 16th birthday, she received a rare first edition of Pride and Prejudice, her favorite novel. The gift wasn't from her parents, but arrived in a package with no return address and a card signed simply, "A fellow admirer of fine literature." When Michael asked about it, Rebecca claimed it was from a distant aunt. Katherine, seeing the book later that week, recognized its significant value and grew increasingly suspicious. The summer between sophomore and junior year should have offered a natural break from whatever was happening. But Rebecca began volunteering at a literacy program 3 towns over, the same program where Mr. Pearson taught adult education classes twice weekly. Michael, busy with a major construction project for a new shopping center, saw less of his daughter that summer. When they did spend time together, Rebecca seemed distant, constantly checking her phone and making excuses to cut their visits short. "She's growing up," Tyler Johnson had told his friend and business partner as they reviewed blueprints one afternoon. "My girls were the same at that age. They come back around eventually." Michael wanted to believe that explanation. He threw himself into his work, expanding Thompson construction to neighboring counties, accepting larger projects that demanded more of his attention. The distance between father and daughter grew. Rebecca's junior year brought excellent grades, glowing teacher recommendations, and early acceptance letters from prestigious universities. Katherine and Michael, though divorced, jointly attended parent-teacher conferences where Mr. Pearson praised their daughter's exceptional intellect and dedication. "Rebecca has a rare gift," he told them, maintaining professional eye contact. "She'll go far in whatever field she chooses." Neither parent noticed how Rebecca beamed under his praise, or how her fingers nervously twisted the silver bracelet on her wrist, a bracelet neither of them had purchased. By senior year, Rebecca had become quieter at home, but more confident at school. She was editor of the literary magazine, captain of the debate team, and front-runner for valedictorian. Mr. Pearson remained her advisor for most activities, an arrangement that raised no eyebrows given her academic focus. The affair might have remained undiscovered had it not been for the Westfield High School senior trip to Denver. As a parent chaperone, Katherine noticed Rebecca disappearing from group activities. Following her daughter one evening, she witnessed Rebecca slipping into the hotel elevator with Mr. Pearson. They stood unusually close, their hands briefly touching before the doors closed. Katherine confronted her daughter that night, demanding answers about her relationship with the teacher. Rebecca, now 18 and weeks from graduation, finally broke down. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "We love each other. We've been waiting until I graduate to tell everyone." "How long?" Katherine had asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Since I was 15, Rebecca admitted. "It just happened. He understood me like nobody else ever has." Katherine's world imploded. She called Michael immediately, and for the first time since their divorce, they united with perfect clarity of purpose. Michael drove 3 hours through the night to reach the Denver hotel. By morning, Principal Davis had been contacted. Mr. Pearson had been removed from the trip, and Rebecca was being driven home by her shell-shocked father.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
The drive back to Oak Ridge was silent for the first hour. Michael gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. Rebecca stared out the window, tears streaming down her face. "He loves me, Dad," she finally whispered. "It's not what you and Mom think." Michael struggled to find words that wouldn't come out as screams. "He was 30 when you were 15, Becky. That's not love. That's a crime." "We never," she began. "Don't lie to me," Michael cut her off. "Not now." The school acted swiftly. Nathan Pearson was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Rebecca was questioned by school officials, then by Detective Olivia Ramirez of the Oak Ridge. Police Department's Special Victims Unit. Text messages were examined. Email accounts were searched. The evidence was damning. What emerged was a calculated pattern of grooming that began with literary discussions and evolved into emotional manipulation, secret meetings, and eventually a physical relationship that had continued for nearly 3 years. Rebecca maintained that everything was consensual, that she had initiated many of their encounters, that they had planned to announce their relationship after her graduation when she would be 18 and no longer his student. Detective Ramirez gently explained the concepts of power imbalance and statutory rape, but Rebecca remained defensive of the relationship. "You're trying to destroy something beautiful," she told the detective. "He's the only person who's ever truly seen me." Criminal charges were filed against Nathan Pearson. The small community of Oak Ridge exploded with the scandal. Former students came forward with accounts of special attention they had received from Mr. Pearson, though none reported sexual contact. Parents reviewed their children's yearbooks and text messages with new suspicion. Teachers at Westfield High were devastated, wondering how they had missed the signs. Through it all, Rebecca withdrew further from her parents. She refused therapy, declined to press charges, and insisted on providing character testimony for Pearson's defense. Her graduation came and went without celebration. The valedictorian speech she had been preparing was given by another student while Rebecca sat stone-faced in the audience, her parents on either side of her like guards. Michael Thompson's construction business suffered as his name became linked to the scandal. Projects were delayed as he attended legal meetings and counseling sessions with Rebecca. His employees noticed his increasing irritability, the dark circles under his eyes, the whiskey on his breath in the mornings. "Take some time off," Tyler suggested during a particularly difficult week when Michael had exploded at a subcontractor for a minor oversight. "I can handle things for a while." But Michael couldn't step away. Work was the only thing keeping him sane as his family crumbled around him. At night, he would sit in his home office reviewing surveillance photos taken by the private investigator he'd hired, images of text messages, hotel receipts, and rendezvous locations that documented the systematic corruption of his daughter. Nathan Pearson remained free on bail awaiting trial, ordered to stay away from Rebecca and the school. Yet Michael's investigator confirmed what he already suspected. Rebecca and her former teacher were still meeting secretly. The preliminary hearing was set for June 15th. 2 days before, Michael followed Rebecca when she left the house claiming to be meeting Zoe. Instead, she drove to the Summit, an upscale restaurant on the outskirts of town. Through the window, Michael watched as his daughter embraced Nathan Pearson in a corner booth, their hands intertwined on the table. Something inside Michael, something that had been bending for months, finally snapped. He entered the restaurant, calmly walked to their table, and stood silently until they noticed him. Rebecca's eyes widened in fear. Pearson straightened his posture, attempting to look composed. "Mr. Thompson," he began, "I understand your anger, but Rebecca and I—" Michael cut him off. "Outside. Now." "Dad, please," Rebecca begged, tears forming in her eyes. "Stay here, Becky," Michael said, his voice eerily calm. "This won't take long." The restaurant had gone quiet, diners sensing the tension. Nathan hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes, he told Rebecca. "We'll sort this out." In the parking lot, beneath the glow of streetlights, Michael confronted the man who had destroyed his family. "She was 15, Michael said, his voice breaking. "A child. My child." "I never meant for it to happen," Pearson replied, maintaining the practiced sincerity that had charmed so many students and parents. "But what Rebecca and I have is real. In a few months, when the trial is over, we're planning to— You think there's a future here?" Michael laughed bitterly. "You think I'll ever let you near my daughter again?" "That's not your decision anymore," Pearson answered, a note of condescension entering his voice. "Rebecca is 18 now. She can make her own choices." "Choices you manipulated her into making since she was 15. Michael's control was slipping. "You groomed her. You used your position to—" "I love her," Pearson interrupted firmly. "And she loves me. I'm sorry if that's difficult for you to accept, but—" Michael's fist connected with Pearson's jaw before he could finish the sentence. The teacher stumbled backward, catching himself against a parked car. "Mr. Thompson, I understand you're upset," Pearson said, wiping blood from his lip while maintaining a careful distance. "But violence isn't going to help Rebecca. If you truly care about her well-being, don't you dare tell me about my daughter's—" "Well-being," Michael growled, advancing toward the younger man. "You forfeited that right the moment you decided a 15-year-old girl was an appropriate target for your attentions." Restaurant patrons had begun to gather at the windows. Someone must have called the police because sirens wailed in the distance. Rebecca burst through the doors, rushing to stand between her father and her former teacher. "Stop it!" she screamed. "Dad, just stop! You're making everything worse." Michael froze, seeing the genuine distress in his daughter's eyes, and, worse, the protective way she positioned herself in front of Pearson. The man had so thoroughly manipulated her that she was now defending him against her own father. "Get in the car, Becky," Michael said quietly. "I'm not going anywhere with you," she replied, tears streaming down her face. "Rebecca," Pearson said gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay. Go with your father. I'll call you tomorrow after everyone's had a chance to calm down." The police arrived moments later. No charges were filed after Rebecca and Pearson declined to pursue the assault. Michael was warned about violating the conditions of Pearson's bail by facilitating contact between the teacher and his daughter. The responding officers, parents themselves, showed Michael more sympathy than he probably deserved under the strict letter of the law. The drive home was even more silent than the one from Denver had been months earlier. Rebecca stared out the window, refusing to acknowledge her father's presence. When they arrived home, she went straight to her room and locked the door. Michael called Katherine, who agreed to come over immediately. As they sat in the kitchen waiting for Rebecca to emerge, Katherine voiced what Michael had been unable to admit. "We've lost her," she whispered, tears falling into her untouched cup of tea. "That man has taken our daughter from us." "No," Michael shook his head firmly. "I won't accept that." The next day, Michael didn't go to work. He called Tyler and asked him to handle the day's appointments. Then he drove to the county courthouse where he spoke with the district attorney handling Pearson's case. The evidence was strong, the prosecutor assured him, but Rebecca's refusal to cooperate and her status as a now consenting 18-year-old complicated matters. He could get as little as 2 years, the DA admitted. Possibly less with good behavior. 2 years for stealing 3 years of his daughter's childhood. 2 years for the manipulation, the lies, the violation of trust. 2 years for destroying a family. Michael drove to his hunting cabin in the mountains, a small retreat he'd purchased during happier times. He sat on the porch all afternoon, watching the sun move across the valley below, thinking about Rebecca's childhood, teaching her to ride a bike, braiding her hair for school, reading bedtime stories. He thought about how Nathan Pearson had systematically dismantled the foundation of trust between father and daughter. When he returned to Oak Ridge that evening, Michael drove past Pearson's small rental house near the school. The teacher's car was in the driveway. Lights glowed in the windows. Michael circled the block 3 times before finally parking down the street. The gun had been in his glove compartment for years. Protection for remote construction sites where equipment theft was common. Michael had never imagined using it for any other purpose. Now, as he checked the chamber and tucked it into his jacket pocket, a strange calm settled over him. He knocked on Pearson's door at exactly 9:17 p.m. The porch light illuminated his face through the peephole. There was a long pause before the door opened. Nathan Pearson stood in the doorway, wariness evident in his stance. "Mr. Thompson," he said cautiously, "I don't think this is a good idea." "I just want to talk," Michael replied. His voice was steady. "About Rebecca's future." Pearson hesitated, then stepped back. 5 minutes. That's all. The living room was sparsely furnished with a couch, coffee table, and bookshelves lining the walls. Literature textbooks and classic novels were arranged by author. A framed photograph of Rebecca stood on the mantel, a professional portrait from her senior year, her smile bright and untroubled. Seeing it there, displayed as if she belonged to him, sent a surge of rage through Michael that he carefully suppressed. "Rebecca told me about your confrontation," Pearson began, remaining standing. "I understand your concerns, but when did it start?" Michael interrupted. "The truth this time." Pearson sighed, as if dealing with a particularly dense student. "Mr. Thompson, I've already explained. Was it the essay competition? The extra help sessions? Or did you plan it from the first day she walked into your classroom?" "That's not fair," Pearson objected. "What Rebecca and I have developed over time. It wasn't some predatory. She was 15. Michael's control slipped momentarily. He took a deep breath. "A sophomore in high school while you were her 30-year-old teacher. There's no scenario where that's appropriate." "Age is just a number," Pearson replied with the confidence of a man who had rehearsed this argument. "Rebecca has always been exceptionally mature. Her intellectual capacity made her a target," Michael finished. "Made her my equal," Pearson corrected. "Something few people in her life have recognized. I saw her potential when everyone else treated her like a child." "She was a child." Michael's hand moved toward his pocket. "Look," Pearson adopted a conciliatory tone. "I know this is difficult to accept, but in a few years, our age difference won't matter. No one will care that we met when she was my student. We'll just be a couple who found each other. Rebecca deserves a chance at happiness." "And what about the next bright 15-year-old who walks into your classroom?" Michael asked quietly. "Will she deserve a chance at happiness too?" Something flickered across Pearson's face. Annoyance at having his practiced narrative challenged. "My relationship with Rebecca is unique. I've never—" "Save it for the jury," Michael cut him off. He pulled the gun from his pocket and leveled it at Pearson's chest. The teacher's eyes widened. He raised his hand slowly. "Mr. Thompson, Think about what you're doing. Think about Rebecca. I am thinking about Rebecca and all the other students you'd target after her. This isn't the answer. Pearson took a step back. You'll go to prison. Rebecca will never forgive you. She may not forgive me, Michael acknowledged, his finger moving to the trigger. But at least she'll be free. The first shot hit Pearson in the chest. The second caught him as he stumbled backward. The third was unnecessary. But Michael fired anyway. In the ringing silence that followed, Michael placed the gun on the coffee table. Then he sat down on the couch across from Pearson's body and called 911. I need to report a shooting, he told the dispatcher calmly. 17 Cedar Lane. My name is Michael Thompson. I'll be waiting here for the police. He ended the call and sat in the quiet room, looking at the photograph of his daughter on the mantel. Her smile seemed different now, relieved perhaps. Or maybe that was just what he needed to believe. 5 minutes later, police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as they approached. Blue and red lights flashed through the windows, painting the walls in alternating colors. Michael remained seated, hands visible on his knees, as officers burst through the door with weapons drawn. As Detective Olivia Ramirez placed him in handcuffs, reading him his rights, Michael felt something he hadn't experienced in months: peace. Detective Olivia Ramirez had handled dozens of homicide cases in her 15 years with the Oak Ridge Police Department, but something about the Thompson case haunted her differently. Perhaps it was the absolute calm with which Michael Thompson had surrendered, or the unsettling stillness of Nathan Pearson's home, a shrine to literature and, in one corner, to Rebecca Thompson. He confessed immediately, Ramirez explained to the district attorney the morning after the shooting. No hesitation, no remorse, said he'd do it again if he had to. The evidence was straightforward: 3 bullets from Michael's registered handgun, gunshot residue on his hands, a clear motive and premeditation. What complicated matters was the underlying crime: Pearson's years-long sexual abuse of a minor under his care and authority. Rebecca learned of her former teacher's death from a 2 a.m. phone call. She arrived at the police station still in her pajamas, her mother trailing helplessly behind her. Through the two-way mirror, Ramirez watched as the teenager collapsed upon seeing her father in handcuffs. "You've ruined everything!" she screamed, lunging at Michael before officers could intervene. "I loved him. He was the only person who understood me." Michael absorbed her rage silently, his face ashen but resolute. Only when Rebecca was escorted from the interrogation room did he speak again. "She'll understand someday," he told Ramirez quietly, "when she has children of her own." The case divided Oak Ridge overnight. Outside the courthouse, protesters gathered with competing signs: "Free Michael Thompson" versus "Justice for Nathan." Local news vans clogged Main Street. National outlets picked up the story, framing it as everything from a father's righteous vengeance to a disturbing example of vigilante justice. Rebecca withdrew completely from her parents. She moved in with her best friend Zoe's family temporarily, refusing all contact with her father and limiting interactions with her mother to terse text messages. At Pearson's funeral, a small, tense affair under media scrutiny, she sat in the front row, openly weeping. Katherine Thompson found herself caught in an impossible position, torn between supporting her ex-husband and trying to reconnect with her traumatized daughter. During a particularly difficult visitation at the county jail, Michael finally addressed what they'd both been avoiding. "I don't want Rebecca at the trial," he said, his voice rough from lack of sleep. "She shouldn't have to hear the details." Katherine nodded, though they both knew it would be Rebecca's choice, and that their daughter would almost certainly testify for the prosecution, not the defense. As the trial date approached, Detective Ramirez made a troubling discovery. While executing a secondary search warrant on Pearson's home, investigators found a hidden external hard drive containing encrypted folders. When decrypted, they revealed correspondence with at least 2 other female students, one current, one recently graduated. The patterns are identical, Ramirez explained during an emergency meeting with the prosecution team. Literary discussions that gradually became personal, praise that fostered emotional dependency, suggestions of private meetings. More disturbing were the journal entries where Pearson detailed his strategies for identifying vulnerable students, those with academic ambition but emotional insecurities, particularly those from divorced homes or with distant father figures. Rebecca had been his most successful conquest, but clearly not his only target. The prosecution faced a difficult decision. This new evidence strengthened the narrative that Michael Thompson had eliminated a predator, potentially saving other girls from Rebecca's fate. Yet legally, it did nothing to justify premeditated murder. "We can't introduce it," the lead prosecutor decided reluctantly. "It would only encourage jury nullification." The trial began on a crisp autumn morning, the courthouse steps crowded, with journalists and onlookers. Inside the packed courtroom, Michael sat beside his attorney, his construction-worn hands folded on the table before him. Katherine occupied a middle row, hoping against hope that Rebecca might appear beside her. She didn't. The prosecution's case was methodical. The 911 call, crime scene photos, the medical examiner's testimony about the 3 gunshot wounds, each independently fatal. Officers described finding Michael calmly seated on the couch, waiting for them, the murder weapon in plain sight on the coffee table. When Rebecca finally took the stand on the 3rd day, a hush fell over the courtroom. She had lost weight, her cheekbones sharp beneath her pale skin. She refused to look at her father. "Nathan Pearson was the most important person in my life," she testified, her voice stronger than her fragile appearance suggested. "He recognized my potential when no one else did. He treated me like an equal, not a child." Under gentle questioning from the prosecutor, Rebecca described a relationship that had begun innocently, discussions about literature that extended beyond class time, encouragement of her writing, book recommendations tailored to her interests. Gradually, these interactions became more personal. "He listened when I talked about my parents' divorce. He understood how lonely I felt. No one else noticed." When asked directly about the sexual nature of the relationship, Rebecca hesitated, before acknowledging it had become physical during her sophomore year. She insisted it had been consensual, that she had often initiated their encounters. "We were waiting until graduation to tell everyone," she explained, tears streaming down her face. "We had plans, and my father destroyed all of it." During cross-examination, Michael's attorney approached cautiously. "Ms. Thompson, are you aware that in the state of Colorado, a 15-year-old cannot legally consent to sexual activity with a 30-year-old authority figure?" "That's just a technicality," Rebecca snapped. "Our connection was real." "Did Mr. Pearson ever suggest keeping your relationship secret?" "We both did. People wouldn't understand." "Did he ever express concern about losing his job? About criminal charges?" Rebecca hesitated. "He said people would try to tear us apart, that they wouldn't see what we had as beautiful." "One final question," the defense attorney said gently. "Did Mr. Pearson ever suggest that you were special, different from his other students?" "Of course I was special to him," Rebecca replied. But something flickered across her face, a momentary doubt. Michael Thompson's testimony came on the 5th day. Unlike his daughter, he spoke softly, his voice occasionally breaking with emotion. "I never planned to be here," he began. "I never wanted any of this for my family, but when I discovered a 32-year-old man had been grooming and sexually abusing my 15-year-old daughter for years, something broke inside me." He described the gradual realization that Rebecca's behavior changes, her secrecy, mood, swings, and withdrawal weren't typical teenage phases but symptoms of manipulation and abuse. "I went to the school," I went to the police. I was told the case was strong, but that Rebecca's current age and unwillingness to cooperate complicated matters, that he might serve as little as 2 years. His voice hardened. 2 years for stealing. My daughter's adolescence. 2 years for using his position of authority to satisfy his own desires. 2 years for destroying our family. When asked why he took matters into his own hands, Michael looked directly at the jury for the first time. Because I failed her once already. I didn't see what was happening under my own roof. I didn't protect her when she needed me most. I couldn't fail her again. As closing arguments concluded and the jury began deliberations, an envelope arrived at Detective Ramirez's desk. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note. Found this in Nathan's desk at school. Thought someone should see it. Anonymous. The drive contained a folder labeled Potential, with subfolders for 6 female students, including Rebecca. Each contained photographs, some taken in class, others clearly without the subject's knowledge, along with notes about their family situations, insecurities, and approach strategies. Ramirez immediately contacted the prosecutor, who requested an emergency meeting with the judge. After reviewing the new evidence in chambers, the judge made an unprecedented decision to recall the jury and allow the material to be presented. Rebecca sat in the gallery as Detective Ramirez methodically displayed the contents of Pearson's potential folders. With each new image, each clinical assessment of a vulnerable girl's exploitability, the color drained further from Rebecca's face. When Ramirez reached Rebecca's folder, the most extensive, containing not only Pearson's notes on his progress with her, but his plans for transitioning her once she graduated, Rebecca abruptly stood up. For the first time since the trial began, she looked directly at her father. Their eyes met across the crowded courtroom, his filled with sorrow, hers with dawning horror. Without a word, Rebecca turned and fled. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before returning with their verdict: guilty of second-degree murder rather than first-degree. The judge, citing the extraordinary circumstances, sentenced Michael Thompson to 10 years with possibility of parole after 5. As officers led Michael from the courtroom, Katherine approached him with tears in her eyes. "Rebecca's waiting outside," she whispered. "She wants to see you." In a small conference room, under the supervision of court, officers, father and daughter faced each other for the first time since the night of the murder. Rebecca's anger had given way to a profound confusion. "Was it all a lie?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Everything he said to me?" Michael wanted to gather her in his arms as he had when she was small, to promise that he would make everything right again. Instead, he spoke the hardest truth. He chose you because you were brilliant and beautiful and vulnerable. What he did wasn't love, Becky. It was calculation. Rebecca nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. "I still don't know if what you did was right," she admitted. "But I understand why you did it. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out."